No, no cameras because for some reason when we have Erickson on Skype, he echoes. And welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to the Go Home Wrestling Show. I'm EJ, and even though you can't see the other two, but they're in Discord. Well, first I'll introduce the guy that's not annoying me. The man that does the Impactful podcast with me, and that is Eric. Say hello, Eric.
What's up, everybody? What's up?
And, of course, the guy that is happy as shit because my team lost yesterday in the playoffs. Because his team choked the... What was that? You want to try that again? What the heck was that? Feedback.
It was my air horn party celebration of the Eagles getting eliminated.
All right, well... I was happy to see him even make it, okay? So let's...
No, I was kind of happy.
Of course, you're a Cowboys fan.
I just really hope that my team will make the playoffs this year because I don't think they're as good as last year. So when they make the playoffs and get bounced practically right away...
Yeah, I could be like the typical douchebag Philadelphia fan that just relentlessly attacks. I don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Trust me, I was listening to Sports Talk Radio this morning. It was a fucking bitch fest. I always hate when something like this happens. All right, so let's get right into it. Enough with football.
All right. WWE bitch fest.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go right into that. Of course, we would like to thank everyone that, we did our first Impact show this past week. Eric and I, we both did a show and had a great response, not only on YouTube, but also on the podcast platform. So we would like to thank you for that. And, all right, well, let's get into it. WWE's Bitch Fest, here we go. Let's go into the Raw Week in Review. And I'll tell you one thing's for sure. It was an unusual way for them to start the show. Lashley and Rollins brawl in the backstage that eventually led out to the stage. And pretty much needed a lot of personnel to break it up. Very different from that brawl that they had, what was that, back in the summer with Lashley and Reigns. But very unique way to start off the show. I'll ask you right away, Disha, what do you think of the way they started off the show with this brawl?
I'll get into the actual segment itself in a second, but just for the simple fact that they didn't start out with Hogan, and we'll get into that too.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I was expecting that.
To me, it was stupid because you can do a fucking backstage brawl at any point in the show.
Yeah.
At the beginning, sometimes back in the day, if you didn't have anything else planned for that week, you could start out a show with a brawl. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But when we all knew Hogan was going to be there, and there was going to be the tribute to Mean Gene.
Yeah.
There was no reason to start with anything but that. Now let's go to the segment itself.
All right. Well, what did you think of the actual segment?
Oh yeah, I just said that, and now to the segment, and then you said, "What about the segment?" And I'm like,
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Put down the pipe. Anyways, already know how bad a fresh storyline is if you have to kick it off basically with that kind of brawl. Bad enough that they just had the surprisingly boring Rollins and Ambrose feud.
Yeah.
That to Rollins' next feud, and you make the mistake of starting it out with a brawl, devaluing the feud that you're trying to get started, in my personal opinion, because saying we're the writers, we can't come up with what they should say to kick off this feud, so instead let's just have them brawl. Main issue with it was your typical pull apart brawl. It could have been any two guys and you really wouldn't have noticed what was going on, and it felt like a waste of time to me.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that, Eric?
Yeah, actually, I disagree. Potentially for one, because if you go back to the week before and remember that how Triple H was egging on the whole Seth Rollins bringing back the old Seth Rollins, and the fact that their match that they had that night ended in a disqualification with Seth Rollins hitting Lashley with the chair, and then the curb stomp to Leo Rush. I think it kind of actually set up the brawl to help build the feud. So at this point, I disagree.
Okay, then you're telling that. No, I agree with both of you. Okay, the placement for where D-Shep says, and it was a little weird. It was a little weird where they placed that. I was expecting Hulk Hogan music from the start of the show. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I get what you're saying, Eric, with your point. At the end, it could be something as simple as a brawl, like you said, D-Shep. Instead of saying something, they did that, and this was the result of it. And it goes back to what Eric said with Triple H trying to bring the aggressive side out of him. I think that was the first thing you saw with that. And to his point, I agree with him on that. But I also agree with you, D-Shep, because the placement was a little off. It really was. I wasn't expecting that to start the show. But they did.
But then that's kind of why you do it that way. I think it's because everybody is expecting
The unpredictability, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I
expecting
honestly
Hogan.
forgot. But did Rollins and Lashley close the show the week before?
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose if you look at it from that point of view, then you're picking up right where you left off.
Yeah, like back in the day.
Excuse me.
Well,
Go ahead.
just wasn't. I don't know what to say. It's like just that little nagging part of me is like.
Well, here's the thing. What they probably tapped into is what they did back in the day. But you had a conclusion the week before. Back in the day, think of any promotion, local promotion, that would have a show that end, see what happens next week. And then next week, you get to see the conclusion. This one, you saw a conclusion, but there was more to it, and then they continued it with the start of the show. So it was just another way of doing it. So that's another way you could look at it. To me, I still think it was. I understand what Eric says about unpredictability, but I still think they should have started off with Mean Gene. The tribute, and we'll get into the tribute altogether, but I think they should have started off with that. Does anyone else have anything to add before we move on to the show? And D-Shep is actually speechless. I'm shocked.
I must know I was picking a booger out of my nose, so I was happy to get that out of there.
And well, you're not on camera, so you won't be seen. That's good. All right, let's move along then. So we were talking about the wrong placement of this segment, but we're going to get into it right now, and that is the Mean Gene tribute. Of course, Hulk Hogan, longtime friend, came out to pay tribute to a longtime friend. I like the fact that he wore the Mean Geno Mania shirt. Of course, he talked up his friend and then introduced the video package, which I thought was really well done. And then, of course, after the video package, Hogan got into character, cut a promo, and Mean Gene put a match together between Roddy Piper and Mr. Perfect, going up against Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior with Andre the Giant as the special guest referee. We didn't, of course, Eric and I discussed this last week on the show, but we didn't get your take, D-Shep. So I guess this is the appropriate time to ask you. I mean, what are your thoughts on, like, the passing and any memories that you have of him? Because we didn't get your take last week. And then we'll go on.
Well, at the end of the day, there's no Hulk Hogan without Mean Gene. That's my first take.
Yeah.
I don't think Hogan, Hulkamania, the whole business would have kicked off if it was not for Mean Gene. Their chemistry was unlike any announcer and wrestler you're ever going to see again.
Yeah, no, you're right. And he had that...
The actual tribute itself, I think, was done perfect. The one little thing I would have added at the end was towards the end of it, after Hogan did his tag team, thing that he did.
Yeah.
I would have had Flair come out for a couple minutes and then cut a little thing, and then they could have cut a little thing together at the end. So I would have extended the segment about 5 more minutes, and I would have thrown Ric Flair out there too. But for Hogan's part, all the sideshow thing going on, I don't think they could have had it go any better than what it did.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't booing. I thought for sure I was going to hear some boos. Now, sure, they probably drowned that shit out a little bit, but I think overall it was as good as it could be. Tailing back to Mean Gene himself, man, I don't know if us that are in our 30s or beyond to wrestling today, if it was not for Mean Gene. He was one of the most influential people to get you into the product, and I don't think you can ever even come close to having somebody else like that.
And no one in the backstage. He had a way of bringing out the best in people. Whether if they were the best on the mic, they weren't so great on the mic, he still made them look like gold. And that was the beauty part of Mean Gene. It was the same because we're all in our 30s, and it's like when you hear of the passing of iconic people that we grew up to, it's like our childhood is slowly going away. And it bums you out in a way. But, I mean, it does. It's life, and it happens. But
I think it was the first one since Eddie Guerrero that affected me as much as it did.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
Eddie was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, yo. But Mean Gene probably was the closest since Eddie's passing. And yeah, there's been other passings since then, Macho Man, all that. Heard of problems with Macho. We've heard of problems with Piper and Dusty and all of them through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew he had a drug problem, but that shit just came out of nowhere the way he died. And at the time, it seemed like he kicked his habits. So who knows what happened towards the end with that. But I think just shock factor, even though we all knew Mean Gene was getting up there in age, still took a lot of us by surprise. And still processing it to a certain extent. But yeah, I think it's got to be the saddest one since Eddie, in my just humble opinion.
Yeah, that one comes to mind, and then another one that I can't believe we're coming up on 20 years of this. And about 4 months, the passing of Owen Hart. Talk about a shocker. That was told on the air.
And Warrior was unexpected. Although that one didn't hit me emotionally as bad as I thought it would.
I did.
Shock factor. The man was on Raw, and the next morning he was gone. Like that.
Exactly. Literally, he got in the Hall of Fame and on Saturday and was gone by Monday.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, shock factor wise, I put.
It was definitely. It definitely was shocking, but to me, it hit hard. I was always a fan of Owen Hart. one of my favorite matches, SummerSlam, was him and Brett, the Steel Cage. But yeah, I mean, going back to the Mean Gene, and we were all affected. I mean, if you're a fan of the old WWF product in the 80s, this hits you hard as a fan. Of course, you guys both asked to answer the other question I had on the lineup, but I'll go right to you, Eric. I mean, what did you think of the tribute from Mean Gene?
I think it was actually a great tribute. I don't think they should have lengthened the segment too much longer, because then it could have had the potential to draw out too much. But I do think that, like D-Chef said, adding Ric Flair could have added a special element to it somehow.
Yeah, so maybe lengthen it was the wrong word. Just figured out a way to work in Ric Flair too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna have one person to do it and just do it by himself, there couldn't have been anybody else but Hogan. So
you just couldn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right with the Flair, because they date back to before Hogan in the AWA days.
right.
Yeah, and that's when he first came in after being a disc jockey for so many years. But yeah, I mean, 76 years old? Man, it's still processing that after a week. Almost two. But, all right, well, do you have anything else before we move on, gentlemen?
Well,
Yeah.
I did notice, or I heard online that they're actually going to do more of a tribute today, too.
Yeah, on the network.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah,
there's
that's what I heard.
some kind of special they're doing on the network with
right
Mean
after
Gene
Raw today.
segments.
Okay. All right, I'll look that up. I did not see that. Could have missed it. All right, I'll look
That
into
was on
that.
Twitter this morning, very early this morning.
Okay.
That's where I've seen it anyway.
Okay, I'll look at it. All right, so we go on to the tribute to a legend, to something that we've been bitching about for the last year on the Go Home Wrestling Show, and that is the lack of, how can I say this? Attention, I guess you would say, on the tag team division. Something we always said that they don't pay a lot of attention to. And in the past couple of weeks, we had a couple of good matches between the Revival and Rude and Gable. That, at least, is my opinion. You guys might have an opposition of opinion. But, of course, the first week, they had a match where I forgot which one was pinned. It wasn't Legal Man.
Don't matter.
Yeah, well, it was a confusing ending, which resulted into this rematch.
Whole thing's confused.
They got the rematch. Revival gets the rematch against Rude and Gable for the Raw Tag Team Championships. It was a lumberjack match, but we'll get into that in a second. It was an energetic and fast-paced match, which, I mean, it was shocking. But at the end, Rude and Gable get the win. Again, when Rude helped reverse an inside cradle to allow his partner to pin Dawson to take the win despite Dawson's foot under the rope, creating another controversy, which you'll probably get the third and final match.
I don't think it is.
You don't think so?
You know why? I get that that's what they're playing. I get that. But last time I checked, we didn't have a lumberjack match. No disqualification, right? Because the lumberjacks can beat up each competitor, right?
Pretty much.
So last time I checked, a no disqualification match. Since when do the feet under the rope things even matter in that kind of scenario?
That is a good point.
And the other part of it that I don't understand is portraying the heels constantly getting fucked over. I get that's a little different into that. Oh shit. To that extent, yeah, it is kind of cool. But it still feels weird, even though it's kind of cool.
In a way, you're kind of getting sympathy.
The Revival getting all this attention, I really do. But it's just so weird that you're rooting for the heel to stop getting fucked over. Now, are they slowly turning them face and turning Rude and Gable heel? That could be going on too. The whole thing to me just feels weird. because the more you think about it, the more what they're doing just doesn't make sense. But I do acknowledge that it's different, and from that aspect, it's exciting to a certain extent.
Okay, well, that's his take. Do you have anything to add to that, or you don't agree with anything that D-Shep said, Eric?
Well, I don't think it's weird because I do think they're in the process. I don't think it's a double turn, but I do think that they are actually in the process of maybe turning the Revival heel. Revival face.
Okay.
So I don't think it's weird to that extent because it's helping the face turn along.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it was a great match, like you said, back and forth or whatever. But that's the only difference I see is that I think that they are turning them gradually face, and I think that's helping. What they're doing is doing that to help them along in the face turn.
Yeah, I can say, going to you guys' points, I do see that it's that sympathy factor. You're developing, sympathy for them. And, of course, they were robbed twice. They go on social media and they go off about it. And you see, it's a positive. People are taking their side, even on social media. So, you guys could be right on that.
Well, and if you think about it, this goes all the way back to the whole. It's actually more of a continuation of the whole Lucha House Party thing.
Oh God.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, I know. We're on the same page with that, buddy. Yeah, that.
Lucha.
Shut up.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that it's a continuation as far as how stupid that was, but I'm saying it's a continuation of how they were getting messed over by being put in the 3-on-2 and 2-on-1 handicap match.
It's the whole sympathetic angle. I got it. All right. No, that's a good take. All right, so we got the feelings on the match. We got the feelings about what could potentially happen as a face turn for them. Now, how do you guys feel about the tag team division, at least on Raw? We always complimented how they handled the tag team division on SmackDown. But as far as Raw, how do you feel in the last month they've been handling it? I'll start with you, D-Shep. Terrible. Why is terrible?
Really? We went from B team shit going on, Gable just going along with Rude's gimmicks. To me, was lame from the get-go. I get it. I do. But to me, fucking lame. I would take half the fucking teams, since they're all great teams on SmackDown. Take half the shit from Raw, send it to SmackDown, so at least you got a somewhat balanced division, and send half back over to Raw. Now, where them other guys from NXT fit into all that, god damn, I want them to be on SmackDown, but they are so much more needed on Raw.
All right. Do you have anything, Eric?
I don't think you can fix Raw's tag team division with what's on Raw's tag team division.
Yes, you can.
Unless you make new teams.
No, you get greater freedom for one, not micromanage as much. And as far as the matches quality, the match quality in the last month, I think they're a lot better than they were. Before that, come on, Lucha House Party and Rude and Gable? To the Revival and Rude and... Shut up. Rude and Gable and freaking Revival, those matches have been way better. As far as quality. And I get the whole Lucha Libre thing. It's good, but Lucha House Party, I don't like them. That's me. All right, Eric, do you have anything to add to that? I'm sorry.
Well, I actually kind of disagree with D-Shep just because I think that they are actually trying to push more of the tag team division.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to push shit.
Well,
and make it look like rocks.
So you think they're polishing a turd, basically?
Oh, that's, yeah. You know what? Better analogy. Thank you.
Yep. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Eric.
No, that's okay. I don't look at it that way because I think that right now, Gable and Rude are actually working very well as a tag team.
I think so too. Yeah.
I mean, the Revival is just money as a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think showcasing those two right now is a good thing, especially with what they said they were going to do as far as the change is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want to see that continue, and also a team like the Ascension finally get the push that they were initially scheduled to get. I do think that what happened with the Ascension, originally their whole downing legendary tag teams kind of screwed them over. But that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing a team like not only the Revival, but also a team like the Ascension finally get a push.
Yeah. I mean, it.
You know, I agree with that, but the oh god, I forget what the one guy. It wasn't. It was the more stockier dude. What's his name? I get Victor and the other guy confused all the time. Connor was the one that had the arrest, though, right? And I think that played into partial of that, besides the horrible debut, which we all remember from a few years back.
Yeah.
But wasn't there some kind of arrest, drug, or alcohol related with one of them?
I think Victor got arrested with, I think it was an alcohol related.
I knew one of them did, and I think that kind of played into him. But I do like what you said with Ascension, because they've always been more talented than they've been given credit for.
Yeah, but that's a lot of the talent they have, and they don't use them right.
Yeah.
I think, and even at this point with AEW, I think they just signed in just to sign. I was trying to find something. I couldn't find anything. If anyone can link an article real quick that could pretty much confirm who was the one that was arrested, because I'm actually curious about which one it was. And yeah, overall, I mean, we have our opinions about the tag team division. Let's give it time. Let's hope this McMahon thing is actually legit and not just a corporate blowing smoke up your ass just to get you to stop complaining for a while and then back to business as usual. All right, so do you guys have anything else to add, and then we'll move along? Are we all good? We're good? All right. Well, let's go into the next portion of the show, which is the main event, obviously. You seen earlier in the show, you had Rollins attacking Bobby Lashley in the backstage. They had a brawl. And then he was a part of a six-man tag match. And he ended up getting the pin on Ambrose and that. Then he saying he demanded a rematch for the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, Triple H gave it to him, welcomed him back because he was the more aggressive Seth Rollins that we haven't seen in quite a few years. And here they are, Falls Count Anywhere match for the Intercontinental Championship. Match started with Seth Rollins attacking Dean Ambrose coming down the ramp. And of course, they battled around in the crowd for a good portion of the match, using any weapon they could use. After Rollins hit a superplex into a buckle bomb, followed by a super kick and a stomp. It seems like he was going to have the victory, but Bobby Lashley pulled his rival out. Lashley then laid out Rollins, allowing Ambrose to get the win and retain the WWE Intercontinental Championship. And I'll start with you, quick, D-Shep, because I would love to hear your opinion on this. What did you think of the match? And did this surpass the TLC match? And then we'll get your take, Eric.
The match itself, yeah, was better than the TLC match. I think pretty much by far. Him up to be more aggressive was played into this being better than the TLC match too, I think. But you knew Lashley was going to come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty much a given.
I'm not a guy that likes the screwy finishes. I never have, probably never will. I get them. I realize they have their place in wrestling, but I was bummed out by the finish. But overall, the match itself was great. So, good main event.
It was a good
solid main event.
Yeah, it was a good, solid main event. Coming off of what you just said, obviously, someone in chat, I think it was Adam Jones, said it seems like they're trying to keep him away from the Universal title picture. He may be correct, and this program with Lashley might be it, or it could be a thing to throw people off. Because the biggest rumor is that it was going to be him and Lesnar at Mania. Well, to throw people off, you may think he may be in a program with Lashley, but then he wins the Rumble. So, But overall, even if that was to happen, they're getting the program going into WrestleMania. I think it would be good for them. I know one person that would definitely benefit from it is Bobby Lashley. I mean, that guy hasn't really had anything big since he came back, what, a year ago, almost? He hasn't really had a solid program. And this could be the first one leading into a WrestleMania. And would it be a conclusion of WrestleMania or it could be a conclusion before? I guess we'll see. But we got your take. Eric, what was your take on that match?
Well, I actually think it was better than TLC. I think it was actually the first time recently that I thought that Seth Rollins didn't have to per se carry Dean Ambrose in the match. But I do also think that I think the finish had its place in moving the feud forward. You would have liked to see a clean finish, but it did help as far as moving that feud forward, because I do think that there will be a match between the two.
My kid just woke up. Give me 1 second.
At either the Royal Rumble or at Elimination Chamber. So I think that's kind of building that. But I do think also that they are keeping Rollins away from that Universal title picture just because they're wanting to keep that storyline fresh for Mania with him and Brock.
Impossible.
So that's the way I see it. I see it as kind of like both of y'all said, but I do think that I think it's gonna help Lashley for certain, because it's gonna help him be in a storyline that lasts more than 2-3 weeks. But then I think there are some things that could happen that make that change too. So
I have this gut feeling though that it's gonna be Cena winning the Rumble. I was telling EJ this the other day, because I think the storyline is just so beautiful with him and Daniel Bryan that, in my humble opinion, I would do Cena winning it, maybe by eliminating Rollins, feud with DB, and then you could have Rollins win at Elimination Chamber with having, guys like Rollins, Lashley, Ambrose all in Elimination Chamber, and the winner faces Lesnar at Mania. That's how I would personally do it. Decide not to go with Cena and Bryan, then yeah, keeping Rollins out of the title picture for now until you decide what you're doing is definitely the right move.
right. Well, even if they decide to do similar to what you said, and they still want to go with both stories, I feel that they could go one of two ways. They could go exactly the way that you said, or they could flip flop and allow Rollins to win the Royal Rumble, and then allow Cena to win the title shot at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
So it could actually work either way.
It's true.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right, where were we? Whew. I'm getting too old.
We were talking about the conclusion of the match and how we both felt like it could lead to certain things, including it could help actually advance not only this feud, but the Mania storyline, and then what it could actually help advance as far as what could be the Smackdown main event storyline as well.
Oh, okay. A good take. As far as I'm sorry, I got thrown off the rails because it hurt my kid waking up and all.
Okay.
No, Ghetto Jones said it should be Rollins and McIntyre for the Universal title. McIntyre, it's going to be a while before you see him in that picture. At least till after WrestleMania. They were hitting at that, but I don't think that's going to happen. They kind of bailed on the Braun McIntyre feud. All right, well, where were we? The one question I had, and then we'll pretty much end with Raw. What do you think of the return of the old aggressive Rollins? Because you've seen the way he's been in the last year. I mean, it was good to see the matches that he has done, the quality matches. As far as the character, it just seemed like it was stale. What do you think about him coming back into his old way, but still be the face?
I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
Okay. Is that?
I like it too. But I do want to say, as far as what you said about the Bryan and Drew McIntyre storyline, I don't think that storyline has been scrapped yet. I just think that it's been put on hold until after the Royal Rumble.
But do you think, is it a title chase, or do you think it's just going to be a feud?
It's just going to be a feud.
Okay.
Because I think that feud is going to be the long-term booking feud. So I think that feud is going to start off as just a feud, and then it's going to involve the Universal title later on down the road. Yeah,
they were kind of, like, because they did advertise for the Raw after WrestleMania that it's going to be McIntyre and Braun, but they still had McIntyre on the side with Dolph Ziggler, and we know they kind of bailed on that. So,
right.
So yeah, one thing. And I'm not saying it in a negative way, but when Roman Reigns announced that he had leukemia, it shook up the whole Raw portion. And obviously, all the negative things as far as ratings are concerned and the changes they're going to have to make on SmackDown shook up that end too. But I think, because you saw a path, we thought everyone saw a path they were going, and it just, that pretty much blew everything up. And then again, for once, I'm actually excited for this Rumble. Because you really don't know who's going to win this. In other years, you pretty much had an idea who was going to win it. This time, you don't. Do any of you guys?
I think you're getting close, though. You're going to get some kind of,
hints.
Rollins, Cena, McIntyre is probably a middle of the pack. I think you pretty much can name that's probably going to win this.
All right, well, we'll find out when the Rumble comes, and I can't wait for that. 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing a live reaction show, too, on this very channel, so make sure you tune in for that. Okay, so that was the end of the show. We booked the main event. Altogether, Raw, 1 to 5. We'll start with you, Eric. What would you give it? You there?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I had a number, but I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Cute on us.
No, I was going to give it a 3.5, but then I was like, no, it was a little bit better than that, but I couldn't quite give it a 4.
Okay.
So I think overall it was a great show. I think there were some things that maybe could have been done differently, but I do think that how they were done, again, helped continue storylines and stuff. So I don't fault them at any point for that. So that's why I gave it the 3.75.
All right. What do you got, T-Shep? What would you rank it from 1 to 5?
Exactly right along the lines with great practically, except I will stick with the 3.5, mainly because I did not like that Raw. So that lost that other 0.25 for me. So 3.5. Overall, a lot better show than we've been having recently, though.
Yeah, I would keep it to about 3.5. I mean, and that's the highest we have all given it in a while, which it says a lot. Maybe there might be some truth to this McMahon era, trying to change things up and make things better and listen to us for a change. And not give us complete control. Yeah, I mean, it's still their art, and they just got to go with things organically, and not force things like Roman Reigns. All right, so we're done with that. Let's go on to SmackDown review. And you had Raw start with a brawl, And how do they start with SmackDown the very next night? And of course, that is the Daniel Bryan promo. At the beginning of the show, he was in the concourse. Took aim at the people at the fruit stand, saying the fans stuffed themselves with candy and popcorn to fill the voids in their lives. That was one of the things he said, which I thought was...
I just read the part where you said he threw the hot dog at the one guy's face, and that's why I started laughing.
Yeah, he threw a hot dog in a fan from a fan, threw it back in his face before taking a soft drink from a fan at the same table, throwing it in his face as well. Brian then then he went over to the merchandise stand, and he asked for a Yes Movement t-shirt, but there were none because he said the Yes Movement is dead. Again, he also pointed out the AJ Styles merchandise, mainly the gloves, and called them nothing but useless plastic garbage. As he made it through the fans, he continued to berate the fans until he made it to ringside when then he was attacked by R-Truth. And they put on a pretty entertaining match, very short, but Bryan did come out on top. But that's not the point of why I wanted to cover the promo. Pretty good promo, but I'm going to get you guys' takes on this too. I'll start with you, Eric. What did you think of the promo to start off the show with Daniel Bryan?
Right now, honestly, Daniel Bryan's character is so hot. It's kind of hard to do anything wrong with Daniel Bryan. I actually enjoyed the promo. So I don't think it was actually a bad way to start the promo, because if you look at the way it was done and the way he made his way into the arena, it set up the match that was coming up. So I actually think it was actually a good way of starting the show off, if that was going to be the first match.
And it was a good way. Oh man, any match with R-Truth is good though. Guy is not showing age of. It's like Rey Mysterio. Like, how old is he? Oh, 47. You sure about that? I mean, he's not showing any signs of aging. Man, he is one of the underrated guys of this era. I mean, it truly is. So we got your take. D-Shop, what'd you think of the segment? And you could go on if you have an opinion about the match, too.
I struggled with this one because I was like looking for something to be slightly negative about, but there really isn't. This whole thing, from the moment SmackDown went on the air, Truth match, the promo, the tag, the match, it was all flawless. I really can't think where they took a misstep with it at all. I can really, normally your wrestling podcast shows like we do here, you can find something.
Yeah.
I don't see what you find to bitch about with this one, because this, to me, this is as close to perfection as you get. And to highlight what Great said, really, Daniel Bryan can do no wrong right now. And not only did he not, but he's just been doing so right, on top of having this huge leash, with all that extra pressure, with him being gone for a few years, and he's just running with it. And it's a blessing to see. It really is. At the end of the day, it's a blessing. With what we had with losing Mean Gene this week, thank God we got somebody like Daniel Bryan and R-Truth and others cheering us up, because it was fucking beautiful.
Dude, yeah, you're right about that. There was nothing that... It was a perfect 20-minute segment, if that. I think it was like 15 minutes. We'll say 15, 20 minutes. With that being said, that's the best way to start off with a show. Because you're developing his character even more. And it is a unique heel character, and a lot better than the Dean Ambrose one. But it is still very unique. And it's another version. I could say it's like the hippie version of what... Like I said, Bob Backlund. Remember Bob Backlund had that kind of angle in the mid-90s. It's another take of it. It's a different variation, but it works. And it works with him. And I'm loving it. And, yeah, there's nothing they can do at this point. I don't think nothing's missing. Everything is hitting on all cylinders. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do this week with him. That's how excited I am about this.
And if you look at it, if you look at Daniel Bryan right now and what his whole heel character and what he's doing, it's not like he's just out there spewing nonsense propaganda. He's out there actually giving his real life thoughts in a heel form.
They realizing finally, after all these years, how to book heels properly, like they did with Becky, and how, you know, they're doing with Daniel Bryan now. Does this make you excited for the future? Hey, guy they turn heel, like Braun Strowman, for instance, like they tried to late last year.
Yeah.
Maybe they get it right this time then, with whoever they decide to turn heel next, because big ones with Becky and now DB have been knocked out of the park so much. They are both on Stone Cold level, where they can do heelish, they can do whatever, and it's just pure 100% gold. And that's another blessing, to say the least, you know? I mean, for years they weren't doing turns very good, and now they're just knocking them out of the park. It makes you excited for the next guy. Who's going to be that next heel they turned that's been a face for a long time?
Yeah, well, they turned. Let's be honest, the turn with Ambrose was perfectly timed. The execution from that was horrible. But what they did with Bryan is gold. And
you're not going to knock them all out of the park. So far, I would say the tweener guy for me, as far as being good or bad, because it hasn't ran its course enough yet, and that's the Miz turning face.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there's some weeks I'm really into, and there's other weeks where I'm like, that's kind of lame. But overall, I'm still hopeful for it. But I think doing turns a lot better than they were, let's say, a year ago.
All right. Well, we'll see. The one thing I want to see is where they go with this next. And it's that excitement to where they're going to go next. All right, so we're going from heels to, well, a new face that came onto the Smackdown scene as of recent, and that is Mustafa Ali. After a great match at the last pay-per-view, with Buddy Murphy, here he is on the Smackdown roster having great matches, and this one is definitely didn't disappoint, and that is Rey Mysterio and Mustafa Ali going up against Andrade Cien and Samoa Joe in a tag team match. A great way to possibly set up two storylines. That's what I saw out of it. We'll get you guys' takes in a second. Of course, the best spot in the match, I'm sure everyone saw it, was the Rey Mysterio with the Canadian Destroyer on Amos. That was incredible. And of course, at the end of the match, Joe was neutralized at ringside. Mysterio caught for the 619 on Amos. And overzealous Ali dove over Mysterio onto Joe on the outside. The brief distraction allowed Amos to recover and drop the mask, the luchador, with a hammerlock DDT for the win. First thing I gotta ask you guys, and we'll go with D-Shep. What did you think of the match?
What were you saying, D-Shep?
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting him off. The match itself was fantastic. I don't know what it is, but and this ain't the 205 hate. It honestly isn't, I swear to God. Because I love me some Buddy Murphy. Have that same kind of love for Ali yet. He's slowly winning me over, but I'm not invested in the character yet. And the performer, and I love what I see in the ring, but I'm just not invested with that character just quite yet. Match itself, 9 out of 10, hands down, no issue with that whatsoever. The guy can perform. Mysterio can still perform. Omnis has been fantastic. Joe always loses. I mean, it is what it is. Just want to see a little bit further Ali character development. I get that they're doing some stuff, but I just want to see a little more with that. But that's me nitpicking a bit. But
it is a new face, which they promised to people, and I think it is the right, and you're going to see the development over time. I get what you're saying with that. Now, what's up, Turtle? So, Eric, what did you have? What's your take on that match?
I think like D-Ship said, excellent match, top to bottom. You know, no real botches that you could see. Um, you know, great back and forth between the two teams. Also, I do think that it is going to set up storylines because I do think that what's going to happen is there is possibly going to be the Rey Mysterio and Almas storyline ended up going into WrestleMania.
That would be a
It
great
could
WrestleMania.
possibly be the Mustafa Ali versus Joe storyline, um, which I think would be two excellent matches for WrestleMania. Um,
That's 100% facts.
and I also think that um, putting Mustafa Ali in the feud with Joe, which I think is with the way that they're going to help develop the character. But if you saw, and we all know that you don't like much about 205 Live, but there was developed so much on 205 Live, it's just having to bring that out more on Smackdown for the people that didn't get to see it or not watching 205 Live.
Yeah, nah, I get what you're saying right there. You're going to a new audience. You gotta allow. It's just like best way to say it. When you're a DJ working in one radio market, you get fired. You go to another radio market. Some people may be able to follow you because in this age you can, but you still gotta develop your character somewhere else. I guess I get it. But the program with Mustafa Ali and Samoa Joe, I'm actually looking forward to. Yes, Samoa Joe's the bigger guy. But from what we saw back at Survivor Series with Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar, is that the little guy has a chance. He brought the best out of the big guy and almost beat the big guy. So, even though Samoa Joe is bigger...
Scenario, not to cut you off, but as far as the big guy thing, I think in this scenario it's going to be flip-flop, and Joel, as the big guy, is going to be able to bring that same character out of Ali, though.
Oh, okay. Oh, and then that would be the veteran leadership that could bring that out to him. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Then you have something that it's the veteran that's on the top of the mountain, reaching down and bringing up the next guy. And of course, that is Andrade Cien Almas. Great talent, unbelievable talent. And Rey Mysterio, if he's going to be the great veteran and give the rub to him, so you get that rub. A great program going into WrestleMania will do good for him. And the fact that, here's the thing, he got the victory. Who did that help? Almas. Did it hurt Mysterio? Probably not, and I don't think it did. So overall, I think they made the right decision to getting him the pinfall over someone like Rey Mysterio. Because another pinfall over Samoa Joe would even hurt him even more. They picked the right person to get the victory and the right person to take the pinfall. I'm sorry, even though they're on the same team, you get what I'm saying. If they would have lost, if Samoa Joe was the law, lose for their team, I should have said that. But you got my point. And off to your point, Samoa Joe can't afford another loss. But that's my take on that. And
in that scenario, though, with the Ali and Samoa Joe feud, Joe can get Ali over and still get the win.
Yep.
It is possible there, and I would definitely 1,000% give Samoa Joe that win because he deserved it. But you can build Ali much stronger, and he could still take that loss.
Well, can I?
So,
okay,
it's a win.
And I have actually read something yesterday that goes along with what you were just saying there. Vince McMahon actually gave Ali advice, and he went public about it recently, and he said that Vince McMahon said, if you want to make money in this company, you want to make money in this world, in the world of professional wrestling, you have to develop sympathy. And with that program with Samoa Joe, and if he was to give it his all, and Samoa Joe does come out on top, but it brings the best out of Ali as far as character development and putting on a great performance. I mean, right there, coming up short, you get this fan sympathy. So at the end of the day, it was a win-win. So,
well, basically, too, you have Joe go over in that, and then the next time Ali, feuds with the big guy, or maybe in a rematch with Samoa Joe, then you get him his win over a big guy, and then the sky's the limit from there.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else, or we can move along? Are we all good? All right. I'm just going to ask this real quick question. I don't want to spend too much time on this.
And that's like 8 something each one, right?
Yeah.
We'll offer change or anything like that.
Best tag team in the world versus the Bar. I'm sorry, for the tag team titles
5-minute conversation.
at the Royal Rumble.
Retarded. Sorry, I was talking to wife.
Yeah, it's okay. We were talking about it's a brief description. I don't want to go too in depth with this. Best tag team in the world versus the Bar for the tag titles at Royal Rumble. I'll ask you, D-Shop, because I know how you're going to feel about this. Real quick, what the fuck? That's all I got to say.
No. I'm with you on what the fuck. The fuck in a good way. Because the play along during this storyline has been Shane says one thing and Miz takes one or two words and plays off that and then does something.
Like a child.
The way this whole thing has been set up from the very beginning. So it really wasn't like anything unexpected. It's been a play on words, basically, this whole time. I'm 100 billion times good with it because it's the Miz. I thought the week before was a little weak and this was a little bit more strong. The whole thing of showing Shane in outfits the week prior was pretty horrible in my opinion. This was much better. It is what the fuck, but at the same time it's that what the fuck that's entertaining. And even if they don't win, which I don't think they should do, I'm not going to be disappointed because it's just going to lead to more this awkward comedy duel or whatever they're trying to portray. And it'll eventually lead to one of them turning on the other, and we'll see where it goes from there. But overall, I'm happy with it.
Well, I actually disagree with you on... you would think I would be with you on that, but I'm not. This is a guy that was potentially going to be in the world title picture going into WrestleMania, and that's not
We
even...
had him in the world title picture.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, a lot of people thought that way. That's where they were going, and it seemed like they were going with. Now he's doing comedy skits with Shane McMahon. That he shouldn't even have no bother to be a part with anything right now. The guy should be in the world title picture. The guy should be owed that for everything he's done, and we can all at least agree that he's done a lot for the company the last 7 years.
Oh God, yeah.
And he hasn't had a title since then. Going back 7 years. 8 years now almost. And I don't like it. D-Shop, you like it, but Eric, what's your take on this?
I like it, which I can't believe I'm agreeing with D-Shop.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
was spot on. And the thing about what you said was, I still think that there's a possibility that he be in a world title picture. I just don't think it's going to be at Mania because of how it could happen. But even if he is in the world title picture at Mania, which I don't think is going to happen,
Yeah.
it's still going to be part of that building that storyline between the two. But I think that right now, you kind of want to build his face, build him as a face before you get to bringing that feud back around with him and Daniel Bryan, because you just recently turned him face.
Yeah. To basically go along what you're saying is what I would end up doing, whether they win the titles at the Rumble, I think doesn't even really matter at this point. Eventually, we all agree probably that Shane's going to be the one to turn on him. Then you can have Miz just fight in the system like Daniel Bryan used to get that title shot. And then he gets that title shot via SummerSlam. Would seem about right to me if he still had the title on Bryan by then.
Yeah.
Then you can do Miz just fucked the system, fought his way to a title shot, and now he goes against his arch nemesis Daniel Bryan.
I could work that far. God, I'd love to see that sooner, but that's me being selfish. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and see what they do. But as far as that, I don't know. I'm not liking it. And usually I don't mind these things, but I think it's because it's the Miz at this point. That's why I don't like it.
Well, and like I say, I don't think that with his face turn being so recent, that he would have, and especially with him being in the storyline with Shane McMahon, that he would be put in that storyline with Daniel Bryan so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like that they are setting them up to get what you want eventually, EJ. We just all thought it was going to happen sooner, and I think they just kind of basically pushed it back by about 6 months, unfortunately.
Right, and what you also have to look at is, especially with Triple H, I think he's doing more of the, he's looking more long-term booking than short-term. So you can definitely see how it's going to work out with them doing the more long-term booking, because again, that's the way I look at it, as you can't just, I don't think it would work as good as if, like, you just all of a sudden broke off the Shane and Miz storyline to put Miz in the world title picture. Let that storyline play out and also help build the Miz's face turn before you put him in there with the hottest male heel that you have on SmackDown right now.
And maybe they just don't think Miz is a hot enough face just yet.
Yeah, could be that. Oh, well, we'll see in time. That's the only way we can tell what they're going to do. All right, so let's move along to next portion of the show. And, of course, I labeled this, finally, an interesting storyline for the U.S. title. That could be just me. Rusev came out to address the WWE Universe, laying the belt on the mat and addressing the Universe as a husband. He blamed Nakamura for the injury Lana suffered the week before and called him out. The artist did not oblige him, instead of appearing on the video screen. I guess debate him, which he did. He looked no responsibility for his actions, blaming Rusev for not protecting his wife. Rusev then took off to the backstage to go after Nakamura. When he made it to the backstage, he was then attacked by Nakamura. Of course, personnel separated the two as they were going back and forth verbally. Real quick, I'll start with you, Eric. Are you glad that they're finally, in a way, going with an interesting U.S. storyline? Because it's been pretty much dead for last year.
Yeah, I actually am glad that they're going with the storyline, just because I think that it's going to, I think that it's actually better for one, it's going to help build the momentum that Rusev is getting. Because I do see that eventually, if Rusev keeps this momentum, that he could eventually work his way into the world title picture.
A good stepping stone, yeah.
Yeah. Also, it keeps Nakamura involved in a title picture, so that especially with his contract coming up at February, it keeps him involved in a title picture while you're getting those negotiations going off screen to get him to come back.
All right. Well, what the whole thing we were saying, going on along with you were saying, like, they weren't doing anything with him. He was floundering, and of course they broke up him and Aiden English. Since then, he had a title shot. He did have a title shot during the summer, but it was a one-off. But this is finally something for him. And as far as Nakamura, I don't know about you guys. I don't think he's going to be here after the end of the month.
No.
I don't think he is. And I'm not.
1,000%. No, the story broke within the last few days that they're like a 90% done deal that he's leaving for AEW.
And that could be all hearsay. But for the fact that there was an interesting storyline. And it's sad that it has to be on Nakamura chasing. Would it be a rematch? I don't know. That's what they're indicating. It's probably going to happen. The Rumble won't be it. But it was something. It's something there. Bishop, I mean, do you have anything to add to that?
I only think it's something because of the Nakamura situation, though. I don't think they would have put Rusev in this position quite yet this is like playing it safe with Nakamura right now. You get him in the title picture still, you keep him lingering around, and if you work out a deal, you work out a deal. I think this whole Nakamura situation, there is nobody happier that it's all going on the way it is than Rusev himself. Politics played into this a bit. Now, granted, Rusev is running with it, and like you said, I am happy we finally have a legit U.S. title storyline.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that. I just think the motivation behind it, more leaning towards Nakamura at the moment, but the way Rusev's been performing and the reactions he's been getting, turn it towards more positive towards Rusev's side the more this goes on, I think.
And I get what you're saying.
I don't think we're quite there yet, but the promos, like Lana used to be annoying when she talked, and now even Lana's getting a little rub from Rusev during all this too, that her mic work is starting to improve too. And I think they're just both benefiting major publicity they got from English and now from Nakamura. They're capitalizing on their opportunities. And it's good to see.
And it's funny that you said that, but the thing with politicking for him, he gets the advantage from that. But there was a reason they chose it. They could have chose anyone. Rusev came out of nowhere. So there was obviously they saw something in him. It's like, okay, this is a contingency plan. Who's the best guy?
It was the perfect storm.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Rusev was coming off, like you said, departing from aiding English.
Yeah.
And it was just the perfect storm for him to be that guy. Yeah, you could have technically went with someone like Ali or Rey Mysterio, but it's more impactful with a powerhouse, I would say, and that's what Rusev is, and it's been awesome so far. I'm very happy what I'm seeing.
All right. Well, if we have anything else to add, we'll move on. Everyone good? We're all happy with this? All right, let's go into it. The very last thing that we're going to cover on the Smackdown, then we'll finish off the show with the list, and that will end the show for today. Of course, we're going to cover the number one contender triple threat match for the for number one contendership for the Smackdown Women's title at Royal Rumble. Winner faced Asuka. Let's get right into it. It was an exciting three-way match. The fans were really into it. Really organic response from the crowd for once. Not this is awesome. You heard those chants, but you had genuine reactions out of the fans, and that was exciting to finally hear and see. And of course, it was the match of the last three SmackDown Women's Champions. Of course, at the end, Becky Lynch gets the victory with the disarmer on Carmella. So we'll go with you, D-Shep, to start this off. What did you think of the match? And then I got a follow-up to that.
One time, I actually wasn't rooting for Becky to win because I would rather her win at the Rumble and challenge Ronda.
Yeah.
And I still, in my question for well over a month now, I don't know how we're getting to Ronda and Becky in the same ring at Mania, but if we don't fucking get there, whether it's a one-on-one match or a triple threat, I'm going to be highly pissed off. I'm happy. I love Becky. Part of me is like, yeah, good. Becky won. Woohoo! Go beat that shit can that's Asuka at the Rumble. Yeah, that's fine and all. The match itself was great. The reactions each wrestler got were fucking great. Carmella, even the reaction she was getting was even better than I thought. So overall, everything was done good for now.
Okay.
About building up to Mania, and I don't know how we get to the Mania that we all want. I know a bunch of stuff. We're going to get a women's elimination chamber match. I think that's all but guaranteed for the first one of those ever, or maybe we had one. I don't remember. I'm getting confused with all that shit now.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know we're going to get Becky and Ronda in the ring at Mania. I just don't know if this was the best way to go about that. It is at the end of the day, and I do love me some Becky, so I can't really complain too much.
Okay, well, going on with what you said, I understand what you mean, and this could be another swerve where they can make us think a certain way, and we're either going to get that triple threat or we're going to get Becky and Ronda at WrestleMania. Now, my question for you, because this has always been your thing of forced, things being forced. Was this main event worthy? Disha?
I just said no.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. My apologies. Okay.
That's okay. I don't think it was, because finish, I might have said yeah. God, there is no way I can say that should have been the main event then.
All right.
I just can't do it.
Okay, I decided to get that because you're adamant about that. You don't want things forced. There's sometimes maybe what happens at WrestleMania is that time where it's organically should be the main event.
I don't see anything else on this particular card that would have warranted being the main event over this match, though.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to that. Now, we got your take on that and whether if it was worthy enough to be a main event. Eric, would you feel that the match, and do you feel it was main event worthy?
Actually, I do. I do think that if they wanted to, they could have moved it up in the card and ended up with one of the first two matches as the main event as well. But I mean, as hot as Becky's character is right now, and as over as Charlotte's character has become with the whole, going hardcore at times, I don't see a reason why that it couldn't have been the main event. So I don't think they went wrong with it, but I don't think they would have went wrong with putting another match as the main event either.
Oh, I'm sorry, my kid's screaming. It was a pretty good match. I thought it was worthy of a main event. It was either that or the tag match in the beginning of the show, or kind of, huh? So I thought it was a really good match. Obviously, the ending is probably to throw us off for eventually what's going to probably happen at WrestleMania. But we'll see as far as that. Now, what is your take, Eric, on Carmella's in-ring ability? Now, Adam Jones has anyone improved more than Carmella as far as in-ring ability? Do you guys agree with that? That she's improved as a leader?
100%.
100%. From where she was especially when she first got to NXT, to where she is now,
She was literally the laughing stock when she was drafted to Smackdown. Basically, so much of a laughing stock, you could have compared her to Eva Marie, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And she has just ran with everything and knocked it out of the park the whole time. Made James Ellsworth relevant. Think about that.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point on that one. Yeah, and it's funny because at one point she was called a diva in a women's division world. Wasn't that during the summer? She was called that, and
that was like her character was embracing being a diva.
Yeah. But
you want to talk about someone? We were talking about turns earlier. Someone that took a face turn and ran with it, that's her too.
Yeah, it was. That whole mixed match challenge.
It rejuvenated her career. She was kind of floundering. She was still doing good, don't get me wrong, but she was floundering a bit. The hair color change and then the face turn.
Yep. And Adam Jones said she was called that when she had to tell. Yeah, exactly. Because, a lot of people perceive her as that, but then she's showing people she is not the diva in the women's division world. She just shows that she looks like a diva, but she'll kick your ass in the process. All right. Now we're at the end of the show. Let's go into it. We're going to rate SmackDown from 1 to 5, how we feel, how good the show was. We'll start with you, D-Shep. What would you give it, 1 to 5?
4.5, and the only reason not a 5 is just because I didn't care for the finish too much. and I'm still not 100% sold on Ali. But other than that, it was a near flawless show.
Yep. All right. And I actually agree with you. I actually give that a 4.5. So for once, we agree. And we're going to go with you. Let's end it with Eric. Would you give it from 1 to 5?
I gave it a 4.5. And the only reason that I didn't give it a 5 is because it's hard for me to give something a perfect rating. But there was really no flaws to me in the show, because you still built. I understand the way D-Shep's saying about the finish, but you still built Becky as the top diva on the brand, or the top female superstar on the brand. So it's kind of hard to say you went wrong with how you did that.
Yeah, I guess selfishly we would want to see this triple threat or even Becky versus Ronda at WrestleMania. So that kind of like jolted our freaking rating. Yeah, it was close to a perfect 5 though.
Not really, because you still have the ability to have Becky find a way for the match to happen at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So one, think about it. There have been plenty of times where wrestlers have had matches earlier in the show on the Royal Rumble and then ended up in the Royal Rumble itself. So it's going to depend on where exactly they put the Women's Rumble as compared to the relationship of where they put the Becky and Asuka match.
Uh-huh. I kind of wish, like, in some kind of way, if they had, like, a Money in the Bank beforehand, cash in at Mania, but, that's a little far-fetched, but I guess we just have to sit and be patient and see what they do with that angle, how they get there, and will they deliver and give us exactly what the fans want, which is what they've been saying since they, a little over a month ago with that speech. All right, let's move along to the final segment of the show, and this is what we call the list. It is our version of the WWE Power Rankings. We go from 5 to 1. This week we'll start with D-Shep. D-Shep, who's on your list this week?
Just because it was probably considered almost the most in here. It was probably close to flawless, and I'm just going to throw it out there because of love and sympathy all at the same time, but I'm throwing Hogan and Mean Gene at 5.
Okay.
Just simply because that sort of thing to play off.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unlike you, I was a little more into Shane McMahon and Miz, so I'm going to throw the Greatest Tag Team at number 4.
Okay.
Then number 3, I got Rusev, because, like we hinted at, he's been just knocking everything out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
So this one pains me because I've wanted to keep Becky on top for so long now. But Daniel Bryan nudges Becky out for me for the number 1 slot. I got Becky at 2, DB at 1.
Wow.
Just because there's nothing bad I could say about Daniel Bryan. And Becky, I said I didn't kind of agree with her getting the win, so I'm going to kind of bump her down just because of that. So.
All right. That's what's on your list. It's not a bad list, and I like the respect that you have for Mean Gene. Of course, I put him at number 1 last week on mine. All right, so we got your list. All right, Mr. Eric, who is on your list this week?
Okay. Number 5 for me is going to be Sasha Banks, because I think that the whole thing with how she has been specifically in those tag matches and 6-man tags, and for her to actually be injected back into the the women's title picture, even if it's just for, now
one-off,
a one-off or whatever, is good, because Sasha is one of those unsung heroes of the Raw women's division.
All right.
I would go with Seth Rollins at number 4.
All right.
And because of the fact of he's continuing that momentum. It was nothing just spectacular. Great match that night, but he was continuing the momentum of that return of the aggressive Seth Rollins. I'm gonna go with Andrade Cien Almas at number 3, just simply
Nice.
because of the fact that he got the pin on Rey Mysterio.
That's good enough there.
That's not something that happens very often. So for him to get that pin, it's the biggest win that he's had on the main roster. And then I'm gonna go with Becky Lynch at number 2, just because she continues to be that dominant figure in the women's division. And then I will go with Daniel Bryan at number 1, with an honorable mention for the Hogan tribute to Mean Gene. And the only reason that I didn't put it in my top 5 this week is because I put Mean Gene as the number 1 last week.
Yeah, which I did, yeah.
Full disclosure, if I wasn't going to do Hogan, Mean Gene, I would have put Sasha Banks.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's fine. I understand. We understand.
Right. Yeah.
All right. No, that's a nice list. And, of course, we got yours. We got these chefs. And here's who's on my list. You're all fickle. Fix it. Get him, Jones and Jensen. All right. My number 5 is, of course, Andrade Cien Almas getting that big victory. That first victory, much needed victory on SmackDown when he got the pin over Rey Mysterio in the tag match. So that's my number 5. Number 4 is Seth Rollins. Of course, him going to that aggressive style that he once was a few years ago. Good to see it back. And still be a face in the process. So he's my number 4, especially with the winning the 6-man tag. But did come up short on regaining the IC Championship. Number 3 is Sasha Banks. Of course, to everything what Eric said, I agree with. But yeah, the fact that she got a chance to face Ronda at the Rumble for the title, that's why I put her number 3. Number 2, Daniel Bryan. Yes, it was a great promo. He had a good short match with R-Truth. But to me, it still isn't good enough because my number 1 is still Becky Lynch. Hitting everything out of the park, getting the victory in that triple threat match with Carmella and Charlotte, 2 former SmackDown Women's Champions. Beat them both. Now she's facing Asuka for the title to regain the title at Rumble. And that is who is on my list. All right, everybody. Now that we're at the end of the show, let me go into a few things. For people that are listening to this later in the podcast, you can watch us live on either Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, or Mixer under the Go Home Wrestling Show. And then if you're listening to us right now, if you don't catch us live, you can listen to our podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, and Anchor FM, which will be our first sponsor, and we'll have the first ad next week for the show. And then, when we're not live, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at wrestling_go. D-Shep is at D-Shep1979. And the great one, Eric, is under the great one, 1999. That is the GR81999. All right. Do you have any closing thoughts, anyone, before we get off the air? No?
Well, my closing thought is I just want them to
bring it up.
The momentum going in the direction that they're going with the shaking up the roster, and I think it's the right direction.
Yeah, I like everything. Yeah, I agree with you on that. One thing as far as right direction, Daniel Bryan, obviously. And I'm going to see where they go with Rollins. I'm going to see how much further, where they go with that. Do you have anything before we get off the air, D-Shep?
Just along them same lines, man. Keep the good face and heel turns going, man. I mean, that's one of the things I'm most into right now. So,
all right.
Good that's going good, and keep that shit going.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Of course, you can catch us live for the live recording of the Impactful podcast tomorrow. So make sure you follow us. If you follow us on YouTube, Mixer, Twitch, or even Periscope, make sure you have the notifications on, because that is at various times. And we'll be back at original time for the next show this Friday. So we'll have 2 shows this week. The Go Home Wrestling Show this Friday at 1:30 p.m. So make sure you tune in for that. And that's the return of Magriff. He'll be back for that show. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Go Home Wrestling Show. Later, everybody.